Welcome to Get Savvy, the podcast for people who want to claim back their time through the power of delegation, productivity, and automation. Today, we are talking about how to pick the perfect support system for your business, because no business owner can be successful alone.
No, I think there's this fallacy that, we hear this self-made term being thrown around all the time. And there is no successful business owner that has done it purely on their own, alone, without any other help.
Yeah.
Self-made is not actually on their own by themselves. You need support in all sorts of areas in your business, because there's no way, I've talked about this on the podcast before, there's no way that you can be good at everything, nor should you spend your time doing everything in your business. There's some really key tasks that only you can do. And the more time that you can put into doing those things, the more successful your business is going to be. So we want you to stop being the bottleneck in your business, because we know that you are. And we want you to stop stalling your progress by getting stuck in the weeds, because there are support options out there.
And you do need to put your ego aside a little bit to come to this realization occasionally that you need other support as well, because you can empower other people so that you free up your own time. So today we are going to talk about the different options that you have if you don't know what kind of support you need or have no idea where to start. We have compiled a list of questions that you can ask yourself about the role or your business so that you can start figuring out what option is going to suit you best. So this is between hiring an employee, a virtual assistant, a overseas virtual assistant, or implementing AI and automation.
Yeah, so the beauty of doing business in these times, 2024 is when we're recording this, is that there are now options beyond just hiring employees, which felt like for a long time that was kind of the only go-to option that business owners had. I need support in my business, I'm going to hire employees. But now we have other amazing options too, that sometimes are better options depending on what it is that you want to get support with than hiring an employee. And sometimes hiring an employee still is the best option. So we wanted to really get you to start thinking about what type of support or mixture of support is actually going to serve you best in your business.
Mm-hmm. So as we go through this episode, please be really honest with yourself as well, because otherwise the answer that you get from this won't be the correct support. So we're relying on you to be honest with yourself in order to get the right answer out of this. So this is considering things like your must-haves versus just preferences and being really honest about those kind of things, and even your own capabilities as we go through these questions.
So it might be a good idea to grab a notebook or grab a pen and paper and to start writing down the kind of questions that we go through. Ask yourself those questions and then mark whether it is going to be one of the four options. So that's hiring an employee, a virtual assistant that's based in New Zealand or Australia, or an overseas virtual assistant. We're going to focus heavily on the Philippines because that's where we have our overseas team members, or implementing AI and automation. And then you can kind of at the end really see how heavily weighted is it towards one of those options, or is there a couple of options that you should consider? And to make it really even easier, at the very end, we're going to talk about a brand new quiz that we have out that is going to help you make this decision.
So our first cluster of questions revolve around identifying the scope of the work or the role. So firstly, do you need support in a wide range of different areas on your business, or is this person or the support going to be focused in one key area? So for example, is this for marketing or design work, bookkeeping, admin, customer support, or is it for multiple of those options? Do you need a few different things? Are you not too sure? Do they need to have a general overview of a bunch of things in your business?
So if we think about something in your business, like the support that you need really focused in on, let's say marketing, then it may be that you need to look for a specialist person in that area of marketing. So this may be weighted towards having a specialist virtual assistant that is local, New Zealand or Australia, or having an employee who actually becomes your marketing manager. So that could be the couple of options there. And I think really supported with some AI in there, no matter which kind of area in your business that you're looking for support. I think that there is definitely an opportunity for you to have some AI in there, speeding up the process of whatever that person is doing in that marketing area. If it's something that's like you actually need some kind of general support across your business, like a right-hand person to you, then it may be that you're actually looking for someone who is more of a generalist, might be a virtual assistant that is local to you, or it might be an employee.
The answer to that question may also come hand in hand with this next question, which is, are the tasks recurring or one-off, or are they a mixture? Because if it's, say, a one-off project or task, and you've found this really amazing AI tool, you may not want to invest a lot of money into that tool if it's just going to be for literally one task. However, if it's going to be ongoing, then again, multiple of those options may suit. But those two questions together may dictate that one of the options isn't going to be as suitable for you.
Yeah. If it's a one-off project, then you may hire someone who is a specialist in delivering that service for you. Let's say a website. If you needed a website in your business, then it may be that you hire a virtual assistant that specializes in web design. Another option too is that if it's a kind of a one-off, or it's like a short-term project or short to medium-term project, then it may be that you hire an employee on a fixed-term contract. So again, you've got a few options in here, depending on these first two answers to this question. And it may be that actually you're open, based on your answers, to all four options at this point. There's no one option that's really sticking out yet.
The next question is, do you need someone to actually do the work in person, or can it be done remotely? And this is one of those questions that we need to figure out if it's actually a preference and what you're used to, or is it actually required for the role and for your customers?
Yeah, is the person required to meet and greet your clients that may come into your office or your workplace?
And even if there are, say, in-person errands that the person may need to run, like popping down to the bank, is that something that if you're hiring a virtual assistant, they can still potentially do, even if they're not in your specific office? Are there ways to actually make that work not physically in your own office?
Yeah. So be really clear as to whether this is a preference or whether it is a requirement that you need someone to do the work in person.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it is in person, right, let's get really clear on that. If it's in person, then you are narrowing this down to probably an employee at this point.
Yeah. And if it's a preference, it may be something that you just mark, and then come back to this after you've answered the rest of the questions if it's not already clear. Next, will your support need to speak directly with your clients or customers? So will they actually be answering inquiries? What kind of level of support will they be providing to your customers and clients? Are they required to answer really high level questions over the phone and actually help customers through things? Like, is this a really heavy customer support role? Is this general inquiries, or will they not be customer client facing at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is there any kind of proactive thinking involved? Do they need to answer sales related questions, take them through some kind of sales process, and be able to kind of think on their feet? Now, this is not speaking directly like face to face in real life with someone, but is that this could be about talking on the phone or answering emails, but dealing directly with your clients and customers. Because if so, then it's likely that you might dismiss the option of having a overseas VA do this kind of work for you. And it may be more suited that you're actually getting an employee or a local virtual assistant so that they can speak directly to your clients and customers. And the other thing too is that if we think about AI and a chatbot, is it going to be appropriate for this overall support that you need to have that conducted by an AI? Depending on how complex or how nuanced the conversations need to be, and how much your clients and customers are going to have an expectation of speaking to someone, and is that going to increase your conversion rate? If we think about sales, is that going to increase your sales and your conversion rate if your customer is actually speaking to a real person rather than AI at this point in 2024?
And again, that question may be intertwined a little bit with this next one, which is, are there any language or cultural understandings required for the role as well? And again, is it a preference? Is it required?
Yeah, like if you are in New Zealand listening to this, does there need to be an understanding of te reo, New Zealand culture, slang? We have quite a lot of slang in New Zealand. Is this a requirement that they would need to have that understanding or not? Because that will then say, okay, actually it needs to be an employee or a local virtual assistant.
Yeah. So that is our scope of work cluster of questions. And this next one is one of the sections that we really, really, really need you to be honest, because this is about you and your business that you're now switching to think about. Or if you aren't going to be the person managing the support, then have the person that will be managing them in mind as you answer these questions. But yeah, please just be extremely honest, because otherwise your outcome will be skewed as we go through these. So to start off with, what of these options best describes your management style or the person managing the support? So firstly, prefer not to delegate at all, like to be involved in most steps of the process. So feel like you just can't really delegate it in most instances because you can do it higher quality or complete it faster.
Second option is that you really enjoy delegating to others, giving them minimal supervision, letting your support just go and do what they think is best. You're kind of hands off. Sometimes you lack the details and direction that you give when you are delegating. Yeah, you're definitely a hands off person that is not detailed focused.
Mm-hmm. Or do you prefer to make decisions and then once you hand the reins over to other people to help you execute your plans and tasks, really want your support to be able to use their initiative, not ask too many questions ideally, and then you can just let them go away and do what needs doing?
Yeah. Next one is you care about your people and like working alongside them, supporting them with whatever they need to get the job done. So you're happy to answer lots of questions and really support them working alongside.
And lastly, you think or believe it's best to delegate, and when you delegate, give as many details as possible so there's little room for error. And again, you prefer your support to ask as many questions as they need if they're unsure how to complete a task so that you can clarify anything for them.
Okay, now that you know all of the options, let's go back and now talk about which support option will be the best suited for your management style. So the first one, Teesha, prefer not to delegate.
Yeah, so this one is going to rule out a few of the options, because if you're at this point where you're feeling like you need support, you do need to be at the point where you can delegate, because otherwise how are your team, no matter what option you pick, going to be able to support you? However, if you feel like you can still get the support without, I guess, giving into that and still wanting to be really involved, something like AI may be a better option because you can heavily dictate each of the steps and play a lot of interference, and you're working with AI, so it's not going to have feelings. So that could potentially be the best option for you. Or if you feel like you need to oversee a lot, potentially an employee that's there in person that you can oversee a lot of what's happening versus a virtual assistant.
Yeah, the employer can be right there with you. You can feel like you can see that person, trust that person, and maybe they are going to be the best option to actually get you comfortable with delegating as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one, Teesha. Like delegating, but really just want to hand it over, lack the details. Surely someone can just run with it, right?
Yeah, so for this one, you're going to need a support option that is able to be really proactive. So you're leaning towards a New Zealand based virtual assistant because they're used to doing that type of work. They can, for the most part, fill in a lot of the blanks and be really proactive. So they can get given that task initially, and then if it is missing a couple of details, they can usually fill in the blanks. Or an employee that has, had the chance to be inducted, and then they can often just be chucked tasks and then left to go and do it because they know the business, they know how it rolls, really. So those two are going to be your more proactive options.
Yeah. Now, we would highly recommend you don't hire support from a overseas VA, and probably AI as well, because they are going to need the details and feedback that you wouldn't naturally give. Okay, next one, Teesha. Make decisions, then hand over the reins for them to execute. Support using their initiative.
Again, probably fairly similar to the last option. You're going to lean towards the ones that are more proactive, that don't ask as many questions, that can just crack on and do it. Yeah, especially if you're not wanting them to ask too many questions, then AI might not ask you too many questions, but at the same time, for people to be able to do the task really well, then they may have a couple. So if you don't want the questions, go for the more proactive options.
Next one is caring, want to work alongside them, supporting them with the tasks.
Yeah, so this one, it's likely that you would go for an employee, because if you really want to work alongside them and you're really caring about your people, want them to be a part of your team, it's likely you're looking for an employee that you can really build that relationship with. Although you can still do that potentially with a virtual assistant. We have a lot of our clients that have our team members end up being basically a part of their team, and they treat them that way.
Have them on their website as their team.
Yeah, exactly. So those would, again, probably be your better options. Probably just have AI as the last option, because if you're really about caring about people, obviously AI is the only option there that's not a person.
Yes, you could absolutely, with you being a very supportive person, working alongside them, you could also go with your overseas VA as well, because you'll be there to answer any questions. Okay, and the last one is you believe it's best to delegate, and you will give as many details as possible so that you avoid those mistakes.
Yep, if you've picked that option, then that's fantastic, and you can, to be honest, make any option work if you're willing to actually provide feedback and give a lot of details up front. Then any of them can technically be suitable for you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Next question is, what is your availability like? So is your availability limited because you're super busy, traveling a lot, or in constant meetings? Or are you available for questions?
If you have limited availability, you are actually going to find it very difficult to get any support options to work well. If this is you, we would highly recommend that you make time in your calendar where you block it out as if you are going on annual leave, where you have no meetings, no travel, and you commit and dedicate that time to whatever support option you have chosen, whether that be implementing AI alongside a business to help you do that, whether it's hiring a overseas virtual assistant, a local one, or recruiting and inducting. Well, you need to recruit that earlier and actually have that time to induct that person and get them up to speed. So that's what we would recommend if that is you. If you have availability and you can make yourself available and be available for questions, then we think that any option is definitely going to suit you.
Mm-hmm. Next is your management experience. Have you never managed before and have no experience managing people? Have you had experience, but it didn't go that well, or you didn't enjoy it? You have, but it did go well, or you have really extensive management experience?
If you have not managed someone before, then there is going to be a very steep learning curve for you to hire an employee. There are rules, laws, regulations in the country that you are in as to how you need to manage your employees. And there's a lot of additional costs in terms of managing those employees too, especially if you need to hire an employment lawyer to help you with your contract, and also maybe an HR person that's going to give you some support about how to manage them correctly. So for that one, if you've not managed someone before, then it may actually be easier and simpler for you to go with one of the virtual assistant options or the AI. What about if it didn't go well, Teesha, last time someone managed?
Again, probably similar to having no experience. If it didn't go so well, you probably want to lean towards one of the easier options to manage. So yeah, your AI or virtual assistant options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if it did go well, or you have extensive management experience, then you could go with any of the options.
Something else to keep in mind is, do you have other team members already? And what are your plans for growth? Are you planning on growing more? Do you not want to grow your team, or kind of just want to keep it at the same level that it is now? Or do you need to get some systems in place and then look to start growing?
Yeah, there are definitely things that you need to have in place before you start to scale. So having a think about, okay, do we need some systems first? What support option would be the best option to help you get some of those systems in place? Now, an AI is not going to implement the systems for you. An employee may not have the experience or knowledge to implement systems for you. So we think that the local virtual assistant who does this for multiple businesses day in and day out would be the best place to start to initially get those systems in place at the very least. And then you could look at the different support options once those systems are in place.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to grow, again, employee is probably not going to be your best option. Yeah. Definitely going to add to your team. And if you do want to keep growing, again, all of the options can actually work, because if you are hiring a virtual assistant, that can help you grow because they are freeing up more time. But at the same time, an employee might work best for you as well if you want to keep growing physically your team.
Yeah. The other thing to think about too is, how stable is your industry? So those who are in hospitality really hurting right now in this economic environment. So what kind of industry are you in? And do you have certainty about the future viability of your business when economic times change, whether they go down or whether they go up? Are you in that kind of risk industry? And does that mean that hiring an employee is going to add to that risk? And that may be a decision for you to go with one of the other three options, either virtual assistant option or the AI, to help with that growth. so that you can scale up and down if needed, depending on economic times.
A last question in the section about you and your business is, what out of these options is the most important in the person or the support that you hire? Is it fun, accuracy, proactiveness, care, or commitment?
Go for it, Teesha. Explain what option if you deem fun being the most important.
If you are looking for some fun, then it's likely you're going to rule out AI for this one. Fun is going to be one of your people options, obviously. It may be that you want that fun in person, and if so, then an employee might be the best fit for you if you have chosen fun, although you can likely probably get that from a local VA as well. You can potentially get it from an overseas VA, although there may just be those culture barriers. They may not get your humour, especially as we know our New Zealand humour is quite dry. So yeah, probably one of those more people-based options over AI anyway.
Okay, and accuracy. This one's interesting because if accuracy is really important to you, then AI can be extremely accurate to set up to do kind of reoccurring tasks. We're thinking kind of in the automation realm. However, AI can have AI hallucinations and it can stop working for just no apparent reason. So maybe some AI to do some repetitive tasks, maybe using something like Zapier and that automation could be a great option for you, maybe in conjunction with one of the other options. Obviously, humans, we make mistakes. We are human. However, I think any of the options could work for accuracy. Just be mindful of where you would put the AI into the support system you choose.
Yeah, and that one is a little bit funky depending on the type of person that you hire. That's always going to, skew any of these, to be honest. If you don't hire someone that is detail focused, then the accuracy isn't going to be there anyway. So do keep that in mind. That needs to be part of the hiring process anyway if you decide to go for a person option.
Yes.
Proactiveness, probably fairly similar. AI, though, not really going to be proactive. They are good at doing what they're told, the AI options. You can bark whatever instructions you like at them in any kind of way, and they're like, yep, cool, got it. But yeah, if you really want that forward thinking, then you're going to need to go for your employee or local VA options. Overseas VA option, they can be proactive once they've gotten to really understand you and your business, but that confidence can take a really long time to build up for them, and it's often not in their culture to not stand up to their managers, but they will just do what they're told.
Yeah.
So if you want the proactiveness, if that's the most important thing to you, then you're going to want to go for a local VA or an employee.
Yeah. Care, the care factor. Well, AI is not really going to care about your business because it doesn't have feelings. And I think if you're like a really supportive, like caring, friendly personality, and that's the vibe that you have for your business, then thinking about this in your recruitment or your hiring process, if you want to have that kind of person in your business, then make sure that you are checking for that in terms of the questions you ask and maybe doing some personality profiling. And I think any of the people options are really going to care about you and your business. You may feel like it's more skewed towards an employee caring. However, don't dismiss that like a Filipino VA or a local New Zealand, Australia VA will not care about your business, because that's not true. There are virtual assistants who like really care about your business and your success. That keeps them in work, right? So yeah, any of the people options there.
And I would say that is fairly similar for the last option, which was commitment. Again, it's, yeah, very similar. The commitment, again, is going to feel like it's mainly the employee, and they'll be really invested in the business and committed because they obviously, it's their job as well. But same goes for both of the virtual assistant options as well, whereas AI is, committed to giving you an answer, and that's about it. And even then.
Yeah, I think so. Our Filipino team, they have worked with us for so many years, and they are so committed to their role and having that income for them and their family that I think their commitment is like second to none. It's
Mhm.
amazing. And yeah, I think them, if they can get the support, their questions answered, and the detail that they need, they can be the most committed team members that you have ever hired. So definitely consider a Filipino VA.
Mhm. Now, our last section of questions is around budget and the volume of support.
Mhm.
So, there is going to be some money involved, and it's about figuring out, firstly, how much you're willing or able to invest per month in the type of support.
Mhm.
So, do you have quite a good, larger budget, say 5,000 plus per month? Or is it up to 2,000, or is it even lower than that?
Mm. Yeah. So with a 5,000 a month plus budget, we're talking in New Zealand dollars here to keep it simple. This could mean that you could look at both the options of the employee or the virtual assistant based in New Zealand, or the other two options. So any options, if you have a $5,000 or more budget per month, it could be a mixture that you use. Keep in mind too that if you hire an employee, you will also need to have a budget for that initial equipment that you'll need to provide for them. So this could be a mobile phone, a desk, a computer, a screen, a keyboard, all of their stationery, a chair, everything that they need to get themselves set up, whether that's working in your office or in their own home remotely. Do they need a company car? Are they going out seeing clients? Are you going to have any other benefits like health insurance for them? And you will also need to pay your KiwiSaver plus obviously their base salary as well. And in Australia, you'll need to pay their super, which I think is actually up to like 11 or 13% now for super. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you're really aware of the complete cost of an employee, including all of that equipment and the ongoing costs that you'll have each month with an employee. If you have that $5,000 budget, then absolutely that is ample for a virtual assistant. You won't even need that much for a virtual assistant. You could have a mixture of other options in there as well. And remember too that when you hire a virtual assistant, that you're not having any other extra costs. It's literally paying for that 100% productive time. Now, if you have a kind of up to 2K kind of budget, then you could definitely still look at a local virtual assistant. You'll have to get really clear and specific on where the best value is in terms of what they spend their time on. And you could absolutely hire a Filipino virtual assistant, maybe in conjunction or just on their own. And absolutely, you could get some AI implemented for that amount as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, if they have a lower budget, what's our recommendation for that?
Okay, lower than 2K per month. Maybe you've got, $500 to $1,000 per month to spend. If you ticked off in all of the other the other questions that it was heavily weighted to you being a suitable managerial style, and the business and what you need them to do suited that Filipino virtual assistant, then that's a really great place to get good value for your investment in terms of the hourly rate for a Filipino VA. However, just be aware that you are going to need to have the time available to put into finding them, recruiting them, and being really hands-on in that handover period, that induction period, and getting them up to speed. But if so, then absolutely that lower budget, $500 to $1,000, you can absolutely look at a Filipino VA, and maybe with some AI implemented as well.
Mm-hmm. And our last question is, how many hours of support do you need per week?
Well, this is interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, we are biased, of course. We have a virtual assistant company, and I hire my own virtual assistant in another business that I have. And I know how much value I can get out of a virtual assistant doing the work, because they're only charging me for the exact hours that they are actually productive doing the task, right? I'm not paying for the breaks and the scrolling on social media and the sick days and the holidays and all that kind of stuff. There is a stat that just came out, a study that someone did, where employees on average are only being actually productive for 2 hours and 38 minutes in an entire 8-hour workday. 2 hours and 38 minutes.
Honestly, that's so horrific.
You know, when I heard that, and it's the average, it's like there are employees who are doing less than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I've
pretty
been
bad.
in a workplace where I can believe that.
Yeah. I was just gonna say,
Not our workplace, not at all.
Yeah. But with that in mind, it is a really good thought-provoking step, because do you actually need, and are you actually getting, if you already have employees, are you actually getting 30 plus hours out of them of really productive work? Is that actually the most suitable option? Because if you are really up there in terms of the support required for the role being 30, 40 hours a week, then it is going to be looking more like an employee is the most suitable. Mm-hmm. However, devil's advocate, virtual assistants can usually get a lot more done in less time, and it most likely comes down to the fact that they're actually being productive in the time that they're billing you for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you think, I definitely need someone full-time, take a moment to really think about whether you actually do need someone full-time, or whether that's your preference, or that's kind of what you've known, and that's your potentially limiting belief that you actually need someone for 30, 40 hours doing work for you. Where actually, could you look at the other options, all of the other options, and really take a look at, if they were always productive, how many hours could they actually get this work done in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your virtual assistants are going to come with a range of plans that you can have them on. So right from the low casual level of support right up to, would you say 15 hours a week, about 60 a month that they're doing for you. So there is a massive range there.
The most that we ever really do for a client per week is 15 hours. And there's a few reasons. Like, that's kind of the tipping point, I believe, of where it becomes less economical to have a virtual assistant if they're doing more than 15 hours a week. I mean, there are a whole bunch of other benefits, don't get me wrong. Hiring employees is not right for everyone, and there are a whole lot of benefits that come with the virtual assistant beyond just the cost of them. But if you are, the reason why we only do 15 hours is because we can do what is almost a full-time role in 15 hours. And that, I mean, if the average worker is only doing 2 hours and 38 minutes, that makes sense about how we can actually do that, right? 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, 15 hours is the equivalent of almost a full-time role. Because when you're thinking about a full-time role for an employee, you need to build in those break times. You need to build in those times where they might be sick, maybe they're on leave and they're not actually working and doing the tasks that you need them to do. And it's important that you really think about the actual work that needs to be done inside that work week and whether that can physically be done in 15 hours of really productive time. Because your options really open up when you take away that limiting belief of I need an employee in my office working with me alongside me. Your options open up and you can get some really great value from those other options to get that support. That costs less. Your investment is definitely less. And there's a bunch of other benefits that can come with it too.
Now, where would you say AI comes into this?
With the how many hours? I think that if AI can do something in your business, it should. You should implement AI. I think if you are looking for support, AI needs to be in the mix. It needs to be a part of it, at least automation, because there's no reason why a human should be doing something that the AI can do without that human interaction and kind of be a set and forget thing. And that's through automation currently. Now, AI is going to be coming in and being able to take actions and do things across different tools. And, it's going to become your assistant. That is coming. In the meantime, absolutely automation should be a first kind of part of in the mix of the support. And if it depends on the task. If you need 30 hours of support, it's not going to suit if AI is not going to be able to do all 30 hours for you because it depends on the task and it depends on exactly what you need. So,
and something we haven't mentioned in this episode is that AI is still going to need some kind of human managing it, giving it feedback, checking its work. So there does still need to be a human element, whether that's you or whether that is someone else on your team that is overseeing that work. That still needs to happen.
Yeah, it could be your virtual assistant. It could be your Filipino virtual assistant, could be your employee. So yeah, alone AI is not going to be able to give you all the support that you need today.
Yeah. So we hope this has helped you narrow down your search for finding the right type of support for you. Now, if you haven't been following along with a pen and paper, or if you're still not 100% sure, we have actually created a quiz based on all of these questions. If you prefer to jump on and do that instead, we will drop the link to that in the description of this episode. So jump over and test it out for us and see what option you get. And if you are unsure, or if you've come out that you're suited to a virtual assistant or want some help implementing that AI in your business, then head over to strictlysavvy.co.nz and don't forget to rate, to review and subscribe to the Get Savvy podcast.